All right, everyone, welcome back. So obviously we just had the biggest crypto liquidation in history, 20 billion reported in liquidations. The number is obviously higher than that due to perp dex liquidations, which aren't reported. But obviously, we are sort of licking our wounds here. Now, should you be bullish here? Should you be bearish? We can discuss that later in the video, so make sure you stick around. But before I do that, make sure to like and subscribe. Also hit the notification bell and we can jump into it. So first up, just a caveat, anyone who got liquidated on that move, I feel for you. It's happened to me before in previous cycles. I know the pain of it. No one could have anticipated a sort of black swan event happening like that. So first and foremost, keep your head above water. If you walked away with something, then you still have the option to grind that back up. If you need to touch grass for a while, by all means, you take the time you need. Mental capital is more important than financial capital in this game. Like if you're not feeling up to it, you're just going to make irrational decisions based on emotion. So look after yourself first and foremost. But if you are still around, congratulations, and there are still opportunities presented. So just look after yourself is the premise of that one. All right, so on to BTC. Obviously, we have been discussing in the previous videos that weekly SFP up here in the green line may be something to pay attention to. We may look for a sell-off. Obviously, the sell-off came down to the levels marked out in the last video, but then it went much deeper than that based on the Black Swan event, based on Trump escalating the tariff news, based on the amount of toxic leverage in the system from all this perp dex farming, as that has been the meta lately. But am I bearish here? No. And I discussed this in the Mars High Club over the weekend. I ran a live stream as the dump was happening. Also discussed, why we shouldn't be bearish here. And that's basically just down to this chart. Now, I've shared this before. It's just the weekly noodle, the weekly mono noodle. You can see we flipped it in 2023. We've just had up only since. We've never had a close below it. And it gave a very nice setup over the weekend. So as I've discussed to you guys, I've been looking to pick up spot positions for a Q4 swing on a move down into the weekly noodle. Now we actually front ran it here in June, so 16th of June we front ran it again on the 1st of September. We did indeed come down over the weekend, so I had some stink bids filled, just hype, MMT, and useless. Obviously if I was awake for the actual move down, I would have probably piled in some more stuff. But the TLDR is we're just looking for this trend to sustain. So on a higher time frame, picture this is like a 1 hour chart, right? This is a standard bread and butter price action setup. It's inducement lows here, so it's just front run the order block down here at 105k, and we wicked down, we formed an SFP of that, and we closed into the weekly demand, and we've held that. So this is just if you picture this as a 1 hour chart, this is just a standard price action chart you would take, a trade you would take, I should say. Your stop would be below the demand, your entry would be at the top, and then you'd be targeting new highs. Obviously this is a weekly, so things take a lot longer to play out, and people can get chopped to bits in that time, so it's something to pay attention to. Don't focus too much on the low time frames, trying to overanalyze and give meaning to every single low time frame candle. We just want to pay attention to the bigger picture here. So yeah, the weekly noodle, that's all I'm looking for to hold. Where am I bearish on that? So we actually go to just the line chart. In terms of market structure here, if we just move this up and mark the bottom of the line chart, so this is the candle body, you can see we've held that low. We have not broken below that low, and we actually did put in a market structure high last week. So effectively on the weekly, trend is still bullish, right? So if we go back to the candle chart, I think the first port of call for me is I will tread with caution if we start closing the weekly below 108k here, 108.3 to be exact. If we start closing there, I'm not out of the market, but I will start trading with caution. Now, where I will be out of the market in terms of longs is if we start to lose the 98k low, which is also the low of this weekly demand, 98.5, so yeah, pretty much 98k, and also the weekly noodle. That will pretty much signal to me that this was an SFP of the highs, and we're starting to bleed back below. If we accept under this level at 98k, I'll be looking to sort of open swing shorts and be in line with the market trending down. But I think we're well away from that yet. The reaction we had was quite good. Yes, it was the biggest liquidation in history, but in terms of BTC, it was only a 14% move down. Obviously, alts got absolutely smoked on that. We can see on the others chart, this is everything outside of the top 10 market cap. Alts got absolutely rinsed because most of the leverage in the system was in altcoins. So that's been flushed. But BTC looks fine here to me. You can also see on the daily, if we just draw this for what it is, let's get rid of all this for a sec. Let's get rid of the noodle. We can see if we just draw a range here from the high to the low, all we did was close the daily back inside the range after sweeping the range low. So as I said in the last video, we are just in a range and we were looking for those 107k lows to get run. Obviously it ran a bit deeper than that, but this was a deviation of the highs. This is now a deviation of the lows. And we're still just in a ranging period. We're now pressuring into the range EQ again, so we may see this reversion bounce come with a bit of a sell-off, and we can look at where that may go to in a sec. But until proven otherwise, we are just in a range, and we need to play this like a range. We're looking along the range lows, we're looking to take profit at the range highs. We start to break above the range highs, with some exuberance, with some acceptance, with some volume, momentum, then we're looking to position into that for a breakout trade up into 140, 150K. Now, in terms of intraday, we have had a nice bounce, right? So obviously Trump came in overnight, did the famous taco thing, basically went back on his word, says he's fine with Xi. That could be reverted at any second. Obviously, we're still in the market of headline risk right now. We can totally sell back down. We can maybe come in and take out this low at 100K. We don't know yet. We don't know. But this reversion bounce is nice. It was mostly fueled off his news. But we are coming into some key resistance levels. So basically here, the 4-hour trend, we are retesting the underside of it. We can also mark out, we basically have like pretty clean support resistance pivots over here lining up with this. You know, here was resistance, we deviated below it, we came back under the noodle, retested it, sold off again. So this is a pretty clean level to look for, around 116 to 117K. I think pullbacks are on the cards and we kind of just need to treat this like a range. So I don't love drawing a range like this, you know, basically from this wick low up into the next high that was made. It doesn't really give me much feedback. So I'm basically drawing the range from the top of that candle to the bottom that was made here before bouncing. You can even actually effectively go here. And you can actually see it gave a pretty clean setup. We deviated below it, we deviated again, we came back slow, we gave it a clean retest, now we're pushing up above the range high. So I do think if we do reject at that 4-hour noodle, as shown just then, we can expect to continue in this range. And we just simply look to do the same thing before. We look to buy the range lows, we look to sell the range highs until we break out with some force. So, you know, we could come as far back. There's a very key thing that a lot of people do, and I do it myself. Sometimes it plays out, sometimes it doesn't. So I'm not going to give you that as the sort of golden apple here. So if you actually draw a range on the daily chart of the entire wick, what happens often is you get a 50% wick retracement. So if we actually go down to the 4-hour chart, actually let's do the 1 hour. I'm not saying we get there now, like we did have quite a nice move up, but if we do start accepting back inside this range here, we can look for maybe come down and fill some of that wick out. Maybe we can go lower, but you know, first port of call, kind of look for something like this. I think on alts, it's a bit more difficult. Like a lot of altcoins, you know, Atom, for instance, Cosmos went down to 0. I don't think that wick's getting filled, right? And if you miss some of those bottom buys, like, you know, on altcoins, it was around 4 seconds we were down at the bottom. I think a lot of bots and algo scripts would have kicked in and maybe collected all those bids up. I don't think people were waiting with 0-cent stink bids on things like Atom. It just doesn't make sense. It's illogical. So don't beat yourself up if you missed stuff. Even if you walked away over the weekend and you missed this reversion bounce, don't beat yourself up too much. It's still early days. Like, people are still licking their wounds. A lot of accounts got cleared out. A massive wipe and leverage across the system. So, you know, it's going to take people some time to come back in that are, you know, once bitten, twice shy here. So this is a reversion bounce, yes, but whether it sustains, I don't think so. I think we probably range a bit longer. If we get some really positive news from Trump for whatever reason, that just pushes price up to the point of breakdown. On BTC, that would be around like 120K. Maybe then we can entertain like we're just going up from here. But I think until then, I'm just basically looking at the 4-hour trend on stuff. So the 4-hour noodle is currently capping price. We can look at something like Ethereum, doing the same thing right now. Nice bounce so far, but up into the 4-hour trend. ZEC's going to be a bit different because I had a decent bounce, but we can just look at coins that weren't so strong. So XMR, rejecting the 4-hour noodle. ATH, testing 4-hour noodle. XRP, 4-hour noodle. Like, this is kind of the key trend to flip right now for me. And all I'm doing is basically just playing hot narratives. So obviously Tau has fully retraced its entire move from the bottom, and it's now eclipsed like the point of breakdown up here. So these are the coins you want to have on your radar for pullbacks. Things like Tau, maybe we do get a pullback into the 4-hour noodle. Maybe it lines up with this FEG here. These are the sort of things you want to be doing now. You want to be marking out your key levels and you want to be setting alerts on these things. So if we do get a pullback, you know what to act on based on what's shown relative strength. Things, you know, like Flocky, like HBAR, like Pengu, they've not shown relative strength yet. So don't just go FOMOing into them because you think the whole market's going to bounce. Just focus on what has had the strength. That's going to be BNB, that's going to be useless, that's going to be MNT, that's going to be Cake. Just all things that are basically reclaiming their 4-hour trends right now or holding well above them. So I'll give you a freebie quickly. Something I'm looking for on BNB is a pullback into this 4-hour breaker, lines up with the 4-hour noodle. Also have this 4-hour FEG in here. There's like a good 3 points of confluence in there if we do get some sort of retrace to push up and possibly target this high or then some. But, you know, for me right now, I spent all of yesterday just doing portfolio rebalancing. So I think this opportunity that the market gave us was actually great to rebalance your portfolio. And what that can kind of look like is this. So, you know, often when people are in a coin and it's just doing this, going down only, you know, sometimes the advice is to cut that trade because it's not going to recover. Cut the trade and then you look for something that is in an uptrend and you can basically long into that. So you're trying to catch the relative strength and make some of the money back that you're losing here instead of just letting this bleed to zero. My problem with this is often you're selling something that's down 80% that you've been holding on to for a long time, and you're buying something that is like massively in an uptrend. So you're buying lower to sell something that's much higher. What I quite like about the weekend is it basically gave us equilibrium. Everything was down bad. So you basically had the opportunity to say, right, my spot bags are underwater, but everything else I want to pivot into, which has been showing relative strength, is also down as well. So you're effectively rotating out of things that are down bad into things that are down bad. So I took that opportunity to rotate out of things I've been discussing in the stream, like prior videos I've discussed I was building a spot position in Aptos, other things like Pengu and that. I basically took that opportunity to rotate my bags into things that were strong before they pumped again. So M&T was a really good one. I was rotating all my stuff and rebalancing down here before we pushed up overnight. Useless and Hype. So these were just things I caught stink bids on. And I thought to myself, instead of managing a massive portfolio again, not that it was massive, it was about 5 spot coins. I've now got it down to 3. Sorry, it was 6. I had some on-chain stuff. I've now got it down to 3, which is just the stuff I feel stink bids on, which is Useless, M&T, and Hype. And I feel quite comfortable with that. It's a lot more mental clarity moving forward. I only have 3 positions to manage. I still don't think alts are great to get into right now. Obviously, with things like Tau, things like ZEC, things like Useless are up quite big. But if we do get the pullbacks on it, I'll just look to compound those positions and maybe add some fresh ones on things like BNB, not things like Order or Bearer or Kernel or whatever that are still down quite bad. So you can always pull up the pair chart stuff. You can chart stuff relative to each other. You can do like a Cake versus XRP chart. Obviously you would see Cake outperforming it, and that's where you would pivot your money into Cake instead of holding XRP for a recovery. That's just being more proactive about it. You can hold your XRP positions if you have them, hoping for greater upside. But in terms of being proactive, I'm more on the side of let's just catch the momentum while it's there, because there is high chance that maybe Trump says something else. This rolls over again. Maybe we come down and we explore deeper into these wicks. We don't know. You wouldn't have expected a move like this to happen on something like BNB, but it did. So we can't put it out of the realm of possibility that maybe we top out here. This was just a reversion bounce, and we come down and explore some of these things. All right, so onto ETH, exactly the same as BTC. It did the same structure. So we basically came down, tagged the weekly demand into the weekly Noodle, and we closed it as an SFP. Once again, on the weekly time frame, it's hard to be bearish in any of this stuff. I find this all as opportunity. Solana, I'm not so keen on, but it did do exactly the same pattern. Weekly Noodle, weekly demand, sweep as an SFP. I think this looks much weaker comparatively. So I think, BTC is the main one to play right now. ETH is secondary to that. But, as long as we see them hold these key levels, we're all gravy, as they say. In terms of strong coins, I'll just cover this quickly. Yeah, so we've covered them already. I think Useless, Tau, Launchcoin looks pretty good. M&T, Cake. H is interesting to me as well. So yeah, pretty sort of garish chart here, but you can see like we've just remained in an uptrend up to 12-hour Noodle since sweeping all these lows. So this is something that could potentially have a breakout. We actually have a nice diagonal forming there too. Something that could potentially give us a breakout above this level. So just sort of something to watch if we get conditions remaining good this week. Obviously, this sucks for a lot of people because they got completely cleaned out on that move. But unfortunately, the market likes to do what you don't want it to do. And the maximum pain here is to resume upside and leave everybody frozen out that lost their money. And once again, I'm truly sorry if that happened to you. It's happened to me before. I understand the pain. It's just the nature of trading the most volatile asset class in the world. It is what it is, unfortunately. But I'm going to leave it there. I'll be back maybe tomorrow or the day after with another update. We just sort of see how these things play out. Obviously, it's a Monday, so we don't really know yet. I think just pay attention to 4-hour trends. The 4-hour money noodle, if you want to get that, link in the description for the Miles High Club. We have that, plus a myriad of different indicators, like the spaghetti chart here. I won't go into them now, but yeah, just the trend is your friend here. So we start reclaiming 4-hour trends. I think we can get better upside. We need to look at the charts I was talking about. I'm just going through ones that have already reclaimed trend. But we just go to something like Eden, something like Zora. Sorry, not Zora. Something like Kernel. We're still coming into the 4-hour trends, and they're going to give us resistance. Bearer, same thing. Until we flip that, I think it's probably more in the realms of possibility that we roll over on these things and we just continue ranging. And that's fine, because this basically gives us a new range low and a new range high to work with. So if this did top out here, we know exactly where we want to do business on this. Maybe it comes down and sweep these lows again. I'm not saying I'm interested in bearer, I'm just saying as a generalization for trading ranges in here if we do form them. Other than that, please like and subscribe. I'll be back in a couple of days. And I hope you guys are well. Chin up.